first horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we're a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in popular and not so popular franchises. And today we are discussing Critters Attack from 2019, the fifth film in the Critters franchise. We're not counting the YouTube show just for now, but this came out in 2019. The previous two came out in 1991, I believe. So quick math.
It's like 27 years or something like that.
27 years. So Critters fans were waiting for 27 years in anticipation of this. This
20,
is
20 something. That can't be right. 20. Yeah, something like that.
20,
Whatever.
Yeah. It's enough. It's basically the amount of time that Coop was stuck in the Red Room. You know, it's we'll see you again in 25 years for Critters Attack. And it had just the same cultural impact and interest out. No, I don't know. Like, why did they do this, John? Like,
they cut out a scene of Twin Peaks: The Return where Cooper's like, "What is that? Like the 14th Critters movie?" And I'm like, "Oh, Coop,
oh man,
sit down."
Yeah,
and that's what actually made him go to Dougie Jones because he couldn't comprehend a world without Critters movies.
Yeah, I mean, I've never related to Coop more in my life, I guess. Yeah. But
my guess is that there was IP left unused.
Yes,
and they went, "How can we do something with this?" But not spend a lot of money on it.
Mm-hmm.
I know. We'll reach out to the Warner Brothers Television Group's digital series production unit, Blue Ribbon Content.
Yeah. I saw the name Content come up and I was like, ooh, yeah, I'm already not so into this.
There's part of me that feels like that this battle is already lost, but like I can't. I'm not ever stopping. By calling it Content, you're immediately going, this is the same. This film is the same as one of those quizzes to test to see if you're Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles.
And I am.
Yeah, it turns out. So I appreciate this. Like, it's just something to have on while you're looking at your phone.
Right.
And that's a bummer way to treat, I mean, any piece of media really, but it's not the fault of the filmmakers that the company is called this, but it still sucks.
It sets a precedent when you see that name at the outset. And yeah, I'm the same way. I think the horse is out of the barn on this, and I'm just going to be an old man about it for the longest time. Like, no, these are movies and films and TV shows. This is not content. Yeah. This is not a TikTok video. So
yeah, I wouldn't call, even though this has a lot in common with Wishmaster 3, I wouldn't call Wishmaster 3 content.
No, it's a movie.
And that's not, that's not praise for Wishmaster 3. That is just, I don't know. I just think it's a low bar. I think that's a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that aside, this movie's a bummer.
Yeah.
Years later, after Alien Resurrection correctly received pretty lukewarm ratings, Joss Whedon, when asked about it, was like, well, the dialogue was there. They just pronounced it wrong and they shot it wrong. And basically just this thing that was like this cool way to be like, it's everyone's fault but mine.
Right.
But I will say there's stuff in this script by Scott Lobdell that is genuinely like funny and would have been good. But Bobby Miller, the director, the cinematography, Hein DeVos, like, I don't know, it was a budget thing or whatever, but it's just, this thing is lifeless.
Yeah.
They just sucked any fun out of everything. It's like, was their budget like, we have one camera set up a day. That's all we can do. We can't possibly do 2 shots of this whole thing. We got to just go.
Right.
That could very well be, because I'm sure there was no money spent on this. It really suffers for that. Because there was some like attempt to be goofy in this. And the movie just fails to reach that camp level,
right,
that the script wants it to be at.
And it does have that campy. You can tell that they're trying for the campy tone, but I don't. And it's something that I fight with myself a lot about, like watching a modern film that's based on something old that wants to have the campy tone, and I can never put my finger on why they're not getting that same tone.
I think in some cases because the music's pretty kind of corny. In a lot of cases, I think the grade on it, the color for it is very kind of dark and drab. Going handheld for a lot of it wasn't a good choice, because it doesn't make it that extra level of remove of this is phony what you're watching, this heightened reality.
Sure.
It is that kind of like, it's kind of real. And so when she's talking to her dad, it feels like a moment from a prestige television show and not, a goofball thing from Critters.
Right.
And then when the big stuff happens, that it's very lackluster. Like when we eventually see the Critter Ball later, that should have been so much goofier. Like it had all the ingredients there, and then it just didn't do much with it.
Yeah. I mean, the director came from a lot of shorts. I think this was his first big thing that he was attempting. Younger guy, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a bunch of behind the scenes stuff and interviews with him today. And look, I don't want to be that guy. He was up on set wearing a button down and a tie in all of the behind the scenes shots. And as somebody who wears a button down and a tie a lot, I like ties. I think people should wear ties more often. You don't show up on set to a Critters 5 shoot wearing a tie. Like, there's just something about that I like. I'm not saying that you don't take it
just Hawaiian
seriously.
Shirts only.
Yeah, man. Like, set the tone. Also, and it's not a, come on, guys, this is Critters 5. You can dress in your concert tees. I'm not saying that necessarily, but like, it's a thing that directors do. And I'm just like, come on, just take it down a notch, bud. Like, you look 23 wearing a tie for the first time. And it did, like, I don't know, if I was an old group of grips on that show, I'd be like, dude, like, you're not impressing anybody.
Well, it just seemed like the movie wanted to be a more, and I have not seen this. This
Bobby Moore's other is what work. You're saying. You've not seen the tie. Yeah,
some of this wants to be shot like a more serious horror picture. It just doesn't work that way at all. But I don't know how you looked at the script. You're like, well, no, we can make this like serious horror, because when you have a critter just sitting there vibrating because you can't animate it to do much.
Yeah.
That's got to make you kind of reassess some stuff, I would think.
I mean, speaking of animation, though, I think this is important. So let's out the gate, we're not too thrilled on it. Critters look great. I mean, I think they look great. They move well. And it is funny where said director said something to the effect of, in these behind the scenes interviews, he's like, we knew right off the bat that we had to do this animatronic because all the fans would get so pissed at us if these were CGI critters.
Yes.
All of the kids said, I expected to show up on set and be interacting with 3 tennis balls. So they truly thought that this was just going to be a CGI thing. They didn't have the experience, you know, whether it be on set or just life experience to know that you could do this mechanically. So I applaud them for going that route. Could you imagine how much worse this would be? Like
it would have been
like a Sonic the Hedgehog type of thing running around.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of like that for a Sonic movie, but you know, just that aside, that's what we would be kind of
they still have they stayed true to that. That works both ways though. Is that because I appreciate they do that, but it's like the movie around it isn't campy enough to fit them. Like it doesn't give them a proper home.
Yeah.
But I'm still glad they did it. Like that's so yes, credit where credit is due on that. Although, and this is probably just a budgetary thing. You think about some of the different ways that the critters were killed in the previous movies. You can see we're like, oh, well, we don't have the money for this or the effect for this. We can't get rid of the critter puppet. Because like that when that one gets electrocuted, it just sort of shakes.
Yeah.
The inside doesn't glow or, you know.
Oh, right. The
stuff
bone.
like that. Just just like little touches that would have, you know, helped sort of bring it up to the level of 1 and 2. But
true, though.
I don't want to get mad at for something that it's not. It's still that. It was still fun. That part of it was still fun.
Although I would say counterpoint is that I feel like between the human and the Krite victims, there are a lot more in this one. And so maybe they just kind of spread themselves a little bit more thin.
Yeah.
As in we had to chop a few critters in half instead of making them smoke and fall over.
And that was, I mean, when they did, that was great.
Well done.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, this is a rated R film.
Yeah.
As opposed to the previous 4, which were PG-13, which I understood completely. I don't think there's a single sequence in this that yells rated R to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I can't, like, there's nothing that gory.
I mean, the only thing I can think of, they made a change. So this is being 27 years later. This feels much more like a legacy sequel. Or just like a reboot than the first one, even though Dee Wallace shows back up and initially was supposed to be her character from the first one, but I guess there was a rights issue.
Yeah.
So she had to be Aunt Dee. So no connection to anything. So they kind of mess with what the critters are and what they do a bit, because it doesn't make any sense for the critters to come back to Earth.
Right.
So this is just what if aliens landed and they were weird?
Right. I was going to say there's no story reason why that first UFO lands. Correct.
Yeah. Well, you mean in this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's it just they come to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we know. They
got it.
But so they definitely changed some things around the curve, play with that a little bit, which is fine. Yeah, this is 27 years later, whatever. So you're trying to introduce new people to it. You're just playing with it. That's totally fine. But they added this thing where, because they looked at 4 and went, well, okay, we're already ripping off Gremlins.
Yeah.
4 like ripped off all these other alien movies. I kind of like that. Let's have the critters come out of people's stomachs.
Okay.
So, because for whatever reason, these critters, instead of just eating people, they're like laying their eggs in the stomach. Because at first I thought they were just like the little ones were just like feeding on him, but it seemed like more that they were being born inside of him and coming out.
Yeah.
And then they pop out, and I mean it's silly, it's kind of fun, but that was a change. And so I think that maybe is your R rating, because it was a little gorier in that respect.
It's a combination of two things to me. One, aliens, like you said, and I'm always on the lookout for that. But then also, and maybe it was just the popping sound that they use, they all 3 popped out of the dead body, and it sounded like the Mogwais when they get wet, you know, and the little fur balls. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But those go flying through the air. And I was just like, that's new. You know, as we keep track of lore in these franchises, I was like, okay, so no critter eggs, as has been established throughout our lore here. These critters, they duplicate asexually at this point. Like, it's the aliens like lay an embryo, pop out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's much similar to aliens because they well, spoiler alert, there's a queen.
Which is so,
I guess.
Which makes it worse because, okay, I'm just going to say it. Evolutionarily speaking, within the Critters universe, if there's a queen, why do all the male critters want to attack the female critter later on? And what, like, again, I'm speaking purely from an evolutionary standpoint. It does your creatures no good to constantly worry at each other, male versus female. And I guess I think maybe there's a lesson there. You know, why are we so mean to our queens, ladies? But how does that make sense? And maybe it is to the point where the male critters are just like, yeah, we've been killing all the queens, and now we do this ourselves with an embryonic like human. Okay, I figured it out. Now that we've talked it through, now I figured it out. Now it makes complete sense. Yeah.
Right. Well, and it also kind of ties into, cynically, you could look at it as tying into sort of the zeitgeist of the latter teens of that identity politics fueled, like women are fighting back against these boorish males, and you know, sisters are doing it for themselves. They don't lean on that too hard, but there's
until the very last scene.
An undercurrent of that. But then, you know, there's also the really obvious hanging fruit of the bad evil critters being black and the nice critter being white,
and cute.
But I don't think we need to go into that any more than that. That's pretty much on its face what it is. You can figure it out from there.
We're gonna back slowly away from that one. And I mean, okay, so Bianca, the cute critter, she's a Mogwai. I mean, she's
absolutely a Mogwai.
There's no two ways around this.
Yeah.
And she's big and weird looking, and she's not nearly as cute as a Mogwai. I would have a Mogwai for sure, especially if I didn't have to follow the 3 rules. Because fuck that.
I'm feeding that thing whenever.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting it wet. It's getting in the bath with me, even though I never take a bath. But I mean, I take showers. I just don't like baths. But
I've never made. I don't believe in germs. I've never seen them.
What's the other one?
Don't feed them after midnight. Never get them wet.
Bright light?
And then bright lights.
Yeah, bright light. Okay. That's fine. So I would have a Mogwai for sure. I don't want anything to do with a Bianca.
No, I don't.
Like, that thing's gross. Like, it's a big anime thing.
It's closer to a munchie.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, like the Dom DeLuise munchie.
Yeah.
It veers towards being unpleasant.
Yeah. Is that like uncanny valley? Is that the right word? I mean, that's more used in humanoid looking things, but like there's something about this. Maybe it's the giant mouth. Don't dig it.
Yeah.
And they go a little ET with it too when they put it in the satchel and like it's got a little hood up over its head. And I was like, you can't fuck with Gremlins, Mogwais, and ET in your 2019 sequel.
Well, I wonder because at first you only see the top of its head when you first are introduced to it. And I was like, was the puppet just not done? Did they only just have that part?
Right. Not a fan of Bianca. And, you know, so what does the queen mean too? So she gets here on her own and we find out towards the end of this film that she came to stop all the male krites for whatever reason. So are the female critters just so few in number? It
honestly made me think there's that old Rick and Morty episode where like they go to a planet or a dimension or wherever it is they go. And like all the women are in one area and all the men are these savages in this other area. And I just kind of felt like that, like the women kind of went, these as the species evolved and went, these guys suck.
Right.
Get them away from us. And so like when they get out there, it's like, we know how dangerous these guys are. We need to get them back to they escaped our farms or whatever. And so I need to go get them, even though I didn't get the sense that she arrived on a different ship.
I didn't get that sense either. I thought they just like kind of found her in the forest, you know?
Yeah. I thought they all came together. So it was confusing.
There, every once in a while too, and I want to find a good way to express this idea, which is great on a podcast. But like
try it out. Particularly if it's racist. Let's see how this goes.
Right. No, I'm leaning more sexist. But
great, even better.
I wish there was something a little bit different than just like the classic, like the female are the serene and great and good, and the male are just like these, you know, disgusting slobs who are eating everything. Now, granted, I mean, that's how it is in my house, but
I'm eating a turkey leg right now.
Yeah, I'm having a beer and who cares? But, you know, I'm going to go munch on a skeleton leg later on. So I'm just saying, like, it feels, I guess, like you said, low hanging fruit. But at the same time, as I'm talking this through, we're watching Critters 5. So I'm not expecting, maybe this is a fool's errand here. But like, I guess when they called her out as the queen, I was like, oh, okay. But that means, does that mean that all the critters in the previous films have all been dude critters?
I guess, but like they've been laying eggs. And so, you know, I don't know, which means that the couple in Critters 4 were gay because they're like, I'll go get the kids.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Well, good for them.
Hey, I guess this is more progressive than I thought.
Yeah, but that would be the movie's trying to say that gay people are evil and will spawn. Right. If we allow them to have kids, they'll just have all the kids and they'll eat all our buffet food.
I mean, how do I become gay then? That's not even a joke. That needs to be.
If you want to write in, folks, let Jim know how to be gay.
Right.
It's. I think what it is it's just that you made this change. And this is what you did with it.
I think that's what I'm coming down to. I think that's right.
Really what it is. It's like you bothered to make this change and you just were super lazy.
Yeah.
Like
it just seems so kind of boring and
it just seemed needless. It's when they came out with, when I heard there was a Resident Evil movie, I was a big fan of that game series, but when the first Resident Evil was coming out, I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And I see the first trailer and I'm like, they completely changed the story for no good reason.
Yeah.
Like it was a perfectly serviceable plot. Why there's this whole other, I don't get it. So it's a similar kind of thing where it's just like you decided to make this matrilineal society somehow or not. I don't know, but this queen society that why?
Yeah. And believe me, I am not above like making dudes slobs in every movie. Like that's totally fine. It just seems
we
like
watch Phantasm.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. You want to watch Phantasm next week?
I do actually.
That's about dudes rocking.
That's right.
But
yeah, that's what's the problem with the Critters movies, that dudes aren't rocking enough.
The Critters just kind of stopped rocking in the last couple of movies. Man, I think you're making me kind of come around to this movie a little bit on a new, like I'm figuring out why I don't like this as much. There's not enough rocking. There's no rascalin'.
There is no rascalin'.
No rockin' and rascalin' in this. Yeah.
There's a dearth of rascalin', which is really interesting. There's like the most rascalin' is basically like coughing up a shoe. That's it. They don't really. They're mainly just attack. I mean, the movie's called Critters Attack, not Critters Rascal. So,
fair enough. And it's rated R, so they're going for the blood.
Yeah, they do tend to attack more.
I mean, another moment of rascalin' had to have been for the fans. Had to have been for us and our listeners. One belches out soap bubbles after the critters attack in the shower. I felt seen. glad that happened.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That scene, I got
chills.
I got chills. Yeah. They were multiplying. No, but I did have a legitimate chuckle at that scene.
So our cast of characters here, and clearly we are eschewing, if I'm using that word correctly, the summary of this film, because there is so little to it. What do we think of our protagonist, Drea? I think
the actor Tatiana Washington is trying.
Yes,
like I like her.
Mm-hmm.
Her character's not that interesting. I don't want, like, being hired to babysit. Mm-hmm. And then watching a YouTube video about babysitting.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're like an older sister. Mm-hmm. It's not rocket science. Yeah. Like, what? That was weird. And that video, by the way, just felt very much like, oh, we didn't shoot that. We got to just shoot that in a hallway with an intern.
Totally.
They filmed this in South Africa.
Yes.
And that is very clearly a South African person. It was like, visit the YouTube channel, or, you know, however. Right. It was like a Ringo impression. I don't know what that was, but it was South African.
Yeah. He's playing the drums in South Africa.
But I think I like her. They really kind of blew it on the kids. Like, her brother's supposed to be 12 and he's the same size as her and has a deep voice. And I was very confused at first.
Is one maybe it's the other little brother that has a deep voice that they even call out.
They even call out that he's got a voice. He's supposed to be 9.
Okay, so there's all kinds of problems here. And I know getting capable child actors has got to be difficult. So what I'm about to, like, criticize here, I'm sure the director will be like, dude, you know how many kids we saw come through that just couldn't pull this off? But Drea's brother, Philip, is excited to go with her to babysit because he has a crush on the girl that is going to be babysat.
Yes.
I did some babysitting in my day when I was, 15 or 16 or so. But I don't remember it being like a thing where, like, kids who are babysat are also of kind of like dating age. I mean, I get the idea of like a cute little crush, but they all seem kind of too old. And
the actress that they got to play the girl that she's babysitting is like borderline.
Yes.
Like, she's still, which is why that feels so uncomfortable. Like, she still reads really young, where he reads an older teenager. In fact, this dude was born in 2002. So that would have made him
17.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he's supposed to play 12. That is a huge gap in, like, your body growth and development.
Not for me. When I was still tiny. When I was 17, I'm still about the same size.
I was this until I was 25.
Yeah.
But so that just felt strange. And I don't know if that's a function of we couldn't find actors that were young enough that we could also take out of the country. Like, I have no idea the logistics of how that all works.
Yeah.
Or if, like, there are South African actors that, just sound South African.
There's part of me that, for my day job watching budgets on productions, like, I would honestly really love to know how much they save by going to South Africa to shoot these, because there's obviously the dollar goes further, probably some tax rebates or something like that. But, like, still shooting this kind of thing, like, I don't know, go to Portland. I'll work on it. I ain't above it.
They do the Wishmaster 3 thing of, like, let's shoot on an empty college campus.
Oh, for sure.
It's a great idea.
Yeah,
as we said in Wishmaster 3, like, that's so much to go shoot, but it's just weird that you had to go to South Africa to do that.
Right.
So I don't know the logistics behind it, but it did make for some just unfortunate choices. Like, that whole thing just doesn't read at all. Mm-hmm. The younger brother thing, and that's nothing against Jade Noel. He's fine. Nothing against him. It's just he's not 12.
Right.
He's very not 12.
I mean, I guess you could just say, like, the whole babysitter angle was an excuse for our protagonist to meet these other kids and to give her a motivation to do well on this job, because she gets a babysitting job of the person who is the dean of admissions or something like that on her college that she wants to go to. There's
a dream school she wants to go to, and she keeps getting rejected for it, or putting on the wait list. And she works for this place called Famous Sushi and is delivering sushi, which I'm sure is done, but that's an odd concept for me. Having sushi delivered doesn't seem right.
I like sushi, but I don't get it to go or anything. There's something weird about that. I want it cold,
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, but she's making a delivery to the campus, to the school she wants to go to. And I love that, just because Chef, as he is called, her boss, is like,
hey, I thought you might enjoy this delivery, Drea. It's your dream place.
And I totally wanted the next scene to be like the dumb store for stupid morons. And she's like, oh.
Yeah.
But no, it was the Leroy University is what it's called. But she runs into a friend of hers, or a former friend of hers that was there. That's like, oh, hey, well, okay, we want to get you into this school. So this professor has a job. You could get hired, make some inroads there.
The job, it's babysitting her kids. It's
babysitting.
Yeah, but Professor
Yeah,
Lacey-
no, I'm too old to be babysitting. What is this, a joke?
Which I was like, what did you think it was going to be? Like, hire you to be a mummy?
Well, and I think it's funny because the movie treats this character, Mandy, I think her name is kind of like snooty, all that kind of stuff. She's your friend who maybe hasn't been calling you recently. Fair. That's some drama that y'all can kind of unpack together. But she's trying to help you out and trying to get you in with somebody, trying to give you a connection and a job. But like, we're supposed to dislike this person. That's Andrea.
Yeah, the level of animosity there just felt very, very big. Particularly like later. And one of the issues with this movie, as we'll get into, is when the critters are attacking, they're about to attack. Yeah, that's happening. Yeah. Well, I should probably do something about it. Let's well, we'll go over here now and look at this. And oh, well, they ate that guy. Okay, well, that's not ideal. So let's go over here now. Like it's all just moseying from place to place, and there's no urgency to anything. It's just, let's just kind of hang out.
Yeah.
And
these blasé teens these days, they're just on their phones the whole time looking at the TikToks, and they're not realizing that critters are attacking.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem.
There's a weird runner.
Yeah.
Where like the one of the youngest boy that she is babysitting of the two children, Jake, only communicates via texting.
Who's 17 or whatever, but
Yeah, who has like 5 o'clock shadow, a full beard and a face tattoo. Was like, oh, I'm 9 years old.
Also, Jason Statham.
I'm also Jason Statham. I'm the beekeeper. He does fight South Africans in that movie.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that was just a weird runner that didn't really work very well. But yeah, there's just no urgency for anything. And so like any of the drama that's happening, you really kind of don't care because it's not like it just feels so misplaced for what's actually going on.
Right. I usually am game for some sort of like kids these days looking at their screens, because I think that all the time as I'm looking at the screen at you right now. But but I also, there's something about it being so forward that I feel like kind of lacks any kind of subtlety with that kind of stuff that kind of bothers me. It just seems too easy.
Although their mom had Professor Lacey had like the right kind of energy for this movie.
Sure.
Like the kind of like improv troupe energy that this movie totally needed.
I gave Jake your number. He insists on only communicating by text. I know, it's weird. I was hoping it was just a phase, but maybe that's just how the next generation communicate, huh?
So how about the kills in this? I could tell that they were really trying with the kills. They were going for something. And again, watching all the BTS footage, like the puppeteers were working hard.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There's no two ways about this. Like, I'm not saying they're the level of the Muppets or anything, but they were like, if you were looking at a scene that was shot in a park or on a field of grass, there was a hole dug, plywood put over it with moss, and then like there's a pit of puppeteers down there making this work. So they're working hard. Yeah, and I want to make sure. I don't want to
besmirch. As I said before, like there's little touches that could have been, they clearly didn't have the money for, whatever. But like it is still impressive that these things are worth a damn for how the rest of this movie feels.
Yeah.
And frankly, I guess I'd rather see money be put towards the critters.
What else are you going to put money towards at this point?
I just wish that some of the stuff was, like they're reacting to loud sounds wasn't just them vibrating.
Sure.
The one sitting on the mailbox that's just shaking.
Okay. So I laughed when the camera panned over just to see the critter standing on the mailbox. I thought that was funny. For whatever dumb reason, it was just standing right there on the mailbox looking into the truck. But then I was bummed out by just the thing that we've seen before. I just think of Mars Attacks. The high pitched sound is what we're going to explode them all with.
It also felt very much The Quiet Place or A Quiet Place.
Oh, sure.
Whatever. Yeah.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, like, oh, I guess they do use the air horns at the very end, because I was just trying to think, like, this never like pays off.
Drea and her brother live with her uncle, who's a drunk sheriff, and her family, her mother has died. Bill eventually has a run-in with the critters, and they kill him using the spines because uncles get killed.
Yes.
Dads just get capacitated.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that figures out that the police siren is really fucking with him. So he tells her, like, loud noises will kill these things. And then she gets into the car after they have this moment. She gets into a different car with her younger brother, and it's like,
Remember something for me.
What?
High-pitched sounds. They hate high-pitched sounds, okay?
oh, the thing that we're after, the motivating thing of this movie, the thing that is the sole focus of what's going on, that we haven't been able to stop, but we know the one thing that can stop them. You know, if I don't write it down, I'm going to forget it.
Right.
And then she does, though.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm making fun of her, but then she actually does. And then later, her younger brother's like, hey, don't forget the loud noises. Oh, right. The loud
that
noises.
whole thing. Yeah. You know, the other thing that bothered me about the uncle character was that I feel like he was kind to her and caring and good in every single scene. Maybe a little bit cringe, as the kids say at times. But they try to do this thing where, you know, he's got a bottle of booze on his cop desk. Probably shouldn't be there, but whatever. But they make it a point of her walking in and seeing it as if it's like truly affecting their relationship somehow. Like, oh, now you've got other priorities. He's done nothing but be kind to you and supportive this entire thing. So the worst you could say is like, hey, uncle, you probably drink too much, but you're still nice to me. Like,
it hasn't seemed like it's negatively affected them. And then at his dying moments are revealing to her that because her mom died in a car accident, like on her way to pick her up from a party or something like that.
Right.
And he's like, hey, it was my fault. I was supposed to go pick you up. I was drunk. And so basically it's my fault that your mom died.
Yeah.
Anyway, time to die.
Yeah.
And then it's supposed to be this moving moment. And it's just like, oh, okay, thanks.
Well, also like, hey, she never cleared it with me that I was going to have to go pick you up beforehand. And then I ended up at the bar. I had
we don't know about it.
I didn't have this information. So, you know, I don't know.
It tries to add drama that's just not really there. Or it's, you know, supposed to be some shorthand for something that doesn't really pay off.
Right.
Talk about sort of the uncle thing. And then later, so he apparently sucks and it's good that he died. Then later when Dee Wallace is going to go, Auntie D, as she's called in the movie, is going to go kick Krite ass because she's a bounty hunter in this. She's like packing up and there's just like a random nephew at her house.
Oh, yeah.
Auntie, you still haven't told me. How long are you going to be gone for?
Oh, not too long, I don't think.
Which one needs the insulin shot?
Little Herrick.
And which one's Herrick?
Those cats are dead.
Yeah.
That guy is not doing it.
Done.
Like, this movie is a polemic against the entire extended male family member verse. Uncles, nephews, no good, useless.
Extends into the critter species,
That's
obviously.
True. Yeah.
Hey, so we need to get this whole Ben Shapiro.
I need to get on woke or worth it.
Yeah,
and let them
exactly.
know.
Critters 5, anti-men.
Yeah, this wokeness. This got to be woke to rascally. That's the problem with this movie. But it was just like the whole Dee Wallace thing. This is kind of what I was referring to earlier. So there's a moment at the beginning where you just get this lovely kitchen, sun is coming through the windows, like peaceful music is playing, this tea is being made, and it's sweet. And then it's Dee Wallace picks up the tea thing and then goes over and opens this like James Bond kind of door, and it's like the music changes, whatever, but the shot just like stays the same.
Yeah.
It's just done so badly. You're like, I could see what the joke is there, but you guys just didn't sell this at all.
But then we get a reverse shot when she's sitting down at the computer and it's Dee Wallace. And it honestly took me a second to realize who that was supposed to be. I'm sorry, I'm not up on my Dee Wallace over the last decade.
Real D-head.
Yeah. But this is so clearly going for the whole Sarah Connor one last ride.
Right.
Lori Strode one last ride. Dee Wallace one last ride.
I mean, which on one level would make sense if it was the same character, and it's like this tore my family apart. So I've been on. I've gone the similar insane that Philip has gone with his obsession with aliens.
Yeah,
but I've grown up and I know that these things are real, and so I've started to track them and all this stuff because they got rid of that. she's just a bounty hunter instead of like Ugg or Lee or Charlie, which none of them are in the movie at all. Which is the first. This is the first time that none of them are in the movie.
Yeah.
But because of that, then she's just a character that shows up, and it's not even that. It could have been anybody. It didn't really need to be Dee Wallace.
Yeah, she clarifies herself as Aunt Dee, which is so just like a throwaway to the fans. Like, hey, I'm the mom from the first film, but it just doesn't feel right. But also it makes me think of the Texas Chainsaw 2022 film where Sally just sort of screws around for half the movie and is constantly behind everything and then shows up at the end. And if we're supposed to be excited about our final girl, our heroine, give them something to do.
Yeah, I legitimately forgot she was in this. Yeah.
Until she shows up. I
was like, oh yeah, because there was this like side movie with Dee Wallace. There's not even like a parallel thing of her like trying to get there in time or something, or having her own adventure with critters. It's just like, oh, remember me from the beginning of the movie? It's me again. I've
got a big old gun, and she does get to say at the very, very end, kill Kreitz.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, fun. But I mean, I smirked at that and I was like, shit, did they just get me? You know, I was kind of mad about that, but like, I kind of liked it. I don't know. But yeah, she doesn't do anything.
See, for me, I just went, why would she know how to say that? I'm not sure lore that actually works.
Right.
And then I looked around and I was alone.
You were alone watching Critters 5 by yourself.
My cats were like, I gotta go.
Right. You're going to roll me like a basketball down the steps. They did do that effect well in this movie where they do the critter is in the foreground. It crouches for a second. The camera whips over to the left and it's clearly like a completely different puppet just being like whipped down a hill. Like they did that a lot and it still made me kind of laugh every single time.
Oh, sure. Like, I mean, so what do they call it? Like a Texas switch?
Yes.
Some of those things really make me laugh. Like when the ones are first born and they pop out and go flying over a hillside.
Yeah.
And then like rise up from the hillside as fully formed critters.
Exactly.
I got a big laugh out of that. And I was kind of like, okay, all right, movie. If this is what level we're playing at, I'm very excited. And then it was not.
Yes. So. Okay. So back to the kills real quick. We've got, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but we get like a delivery guy at the beginning. He just sort of gets eaten. There's a lot of dragging bodies out of frame in this one.
Yeah, the critters are super strong in this one.
Yeah.
Like they've got to take them somewhere and to eat instead of just eating.
Having watched 4 Critters movies, that's something as completely innocuous as dragging a body out of frame. I'm like, oh, that's different for these monsters.
Right, yeah. Excuse me.
Point of order here.
Manager.
Yes. Yeah. This is new lore. Usually they eat them on screen. But it's true. Like they do that like 2 or 3 times. They drag them off screen. There's the shower death, which is the loofah held to the face.
Yes, there's a sheriff or like a ranger that gets pooped on and is using the outdoor shower at the ranger station, which I guess they have, whatever. But he's got shampoo in his eyes and he's reaching for a towel and he grabs a critter by mistake and rubs it on his face. That got me.
Great. It's great.
That got me. That was very silly. Yeah, I wish it was a little bit more. I was a little livelier, but it was still very funny.
Right. Got it. I don't mean to talk so poorly about this director, but like he did say something like, I didn't have that death scene planned out, so I just said, surprise me to the puppets or to the puppeteers. To the puppets.
the puppets are like, what do you got? Thrill me, puppets.
Right. That'd be rad. No, but he was just like, I don't know. Like I'd love to see the puppeteers just standing around just being like, I don't know, let me just grab him like a loofah and put it to his face or something. Like, it's fine. Just squirt the blood on the thing. Like, you're the director. Like, come on. Like, the other kills throughout the rest are kind of off screen. Like the bagpipes thing. Was the critter supposed to be playing the bagpipes on the body?
I think it was just like eating them and they were making they were making noise while that was happening. Yeah, I don't really know.
That's another one of those low hanging fruit jokes that I was just like, ugh. You know, like the guy giving Drea the tape of his music and it was bagpipe music.
And it's all just bagpipe music.
They just let that go and go and go. And
I think it's, again, like because the movie doesn't have that campy level to it, that it is just, it's shot really kind of matter of factly. It loses a lot of that where you could like these actors are trying. They're trying to be silly and fun with it. And they're just not letting them you're constraining their performances in this reality where if you just made it still probably would be very annoying.
Sure.
But it would just fit that kind of like
kinetic
I don't know,
energy.
It would
to
feel,
it.
it would just feel like a movie.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And not a TV show.
Yeah. All the major deaths. I mean, I guess once I do the big roundup at the end, I'll remember.
Yeah.
But
I mean, a lot of it is, there's a lot of like leg bones being gnawed. They do that a lot of bone gnawing.
Yeah. Even Uncle gets eaten kind of off screen. Like she finds him in the truck cab. That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not even the kills are that impressive. I feel like everything leading up to the kills can be impressive because I think the puppets are well done. Mm-hmm. But then when it comes time for the kills, there were a few shots, especially early on. And this goes to what you were saying, just a static shot of some critters munching on somebody and then blood getting sprayed on the wall. And there was just something just so lacking in energy about the whole thing.
I will say a moment that did legitimately get me. They find Bianca in the woods, the white critter, and they bring her back to the house, and they're like in the kitchen, and she's wounded. Yeah. Of course, Drea is like, I don't really want to treat the wound. This thing could bite me. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And so it's got this green goop coming out of the side of his head, and she's going to like dab it with a cloth or something. And just that tension, they really stretch that out very effectively of her like reaching into something going to happen. And right when it's about to happen, her brother's like, be careful.
Yeah.
I
jumped.
I jumped and I laughed. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I like that bit. But that was like the one really effective bit of tension.
We have yet to mention the critter ball.
There's the critter ball. There
is a critter ball that is just, it's just sort of there. Sure is a critter ball.
There's a guy that she meets on campus. His name's like Max Sex. Yeah.
I liked Max.
Max, I just have him in my notes as Chin Handsomely.
Yeah.
Because he's just hi there.
Yeah.
And I did, because he was sort of this, he's wearing a leather jacket and, I know the school song. And but then when they run into him again at the end and they're like, well, we need to, the critters are out there and we need someone to like to distract them.
Listen, I don't believe in monsters. But I do believe in one thing. I can run incredibly fast.
That made me laugh.
That was funny, but just when he does the kiss and then shush on hers, that was a little bit too like.
Agreed.
At that point, the self-referentiality of it being silly, that didn't fit. That felt a little out of place, but
for sure.
And then when he's just kind of running around outside and the critter ball comes up and he's running away from it and then it just runs over him. There's not really, they could have made that a lot sillier, more fun. And they just, again, it was just pretty straightforward.
I really liked that sequence at the end and earlier on where he's like the frat guy who's actually like, we're going to go a little against type, which is basically what I was complaining about earlier with the critters and stuff. Yeah. I was just like, okay, so this like frat guy is actually kind of just doofy and like semi-charming, Yeah. And he was like fairly nice the entire time instead of like a meathead 80s character. And when he took his shirt off and said, I can run really fast, like I genuinely thought that was pretty funny. And then, it completely dropped me out when he just shushes her. And I was like, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm back on the other side of this character here. But yeah, then he gets rolled over by the critter ball, and then the critter ball shows up at the very, very end, rolls down some steps towards Dee Wallace and Drea, who just shoot it with laser guns, and that's it. Yeah,
the big thing before that is they have a big standoff with all these critters, and all the kids are just whacking them with different things. I just thought that was funny. Is like. Basically, all these grips offset, just chucking these things at kids, and they have to whack at them.
Well, again,
that was silly, but I enjoyed it.
The BTS footage genuinely shows that. Just shows all these grips and PAs, and the director, to his credit, does say, "Yeah, their basketballs covered in fur," and you can like just kind of see them like bounce down the thing. There is one shot that's about 2 seconds long. That's like a transitional shot. I can't remember where it is. Of the critters rolling down a suburban street. And it's so short that I couldn't help but laugh just thinking like whatever's at the beginning and the tail end of that shot just didn't work. But they're going to put 2 seconds of this as a transition shot in. Yep, and it made me laugh. It totally worked.
Yeah, it's absolutely what we have. So we got to use it.
We're doing it. God, boy, oh boy. I think that's about all I got on Critters Attack.
Yeah. It's just It's just my big problem with it. It really, when it comes down to it, is just the energy level of this thing is just there's just no energy to it. It just sort of moseys from encounter to encounter, and there's no urgency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
Because
I
think the
critters are decent.
Like the bones of this thing, there's stuff you can use here, and I like it. Wouldn't have been amazing, but it would have been a Critters movie.
Yeah,
this just wasn't it.
All right, well, let's go ahead and honor our dead. It was a decently high body count for a Critters movie, so I'll give it that. Kevin Luong, played by Vash Singh, mauled by Kreitz. Backpacker Doug, played by Pierre Malhabre, mauled by Kreitz. Ranger Bob, played by Leon Klingman, mauled by critters in the shower. Ranger Carol, played by Ellie Hartman, mauled by Kreitz in the office. Ranger Jonathan, played by Joe Vaz, mauled by Kreitz in the office. Telephone repairman, played by Greg Harvis, knocked off pole, eaten by critters. 2 unnamed men, played by production assistants, eaten by Kreitz. Unnamed teenage girl, eaten by Kreitz. Sheriff Lewis Haynes, played by Stephen Jennings, bled out after Krite bite in neck. 4 unnamed people, eaten by critters. 5 unnamed people, eaten by critters. Sean, played by Nathan Lynn, killed off screen by critter. Gregory Sachs, played by Tristan DeBeer, rolled over by critter ball. Unnamed male student, eaten by critters. All right, well, that'll do it. John, are you going to try to track down a Critters binge or whatever it's called?
I have, actually.
I mean, the trailer was branded as Shudder. And
yeah.
It's not on Shudder anymore.
It's not on Shudder, so that's strange.
I feel like there will never be a more prime opportunity for me to watch those except now. Because I thought when I slid my little slipcover back on my Critters 5 Blu-ray that I will probably never slip that thing off again. You know, unless I'm showing like a nephew or something like that. But
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you want to show them how bad nephews are, yeah.
But yeah, hey, as I always say, we celebrate the physical media here, but that old Critters box set is probably gonna gather a little dust on the shelf.
Well, the nice thing is though is that you have that, and maybe there's someone else that wants to celebrate it.
Absolutely, and they can borrow it from me and get it back to me because I'll miss it as soon as it's gone.
I will log it as soon as it leaves.
Oh yeah. All right, so that puts the pin in our 99th episode, John.
Good God, that's right.
Yeah, we have done, Critters 5 rounded out 99 episodes. So we are going to be back next week with our 100th episode doing our Critters roundup.
Mm-hmm.
Part of our formula of the show, like we get kind of locked into these schedules as we've mentioned before. So, talking about the entire Critters series as our 100th episode, who knows what'll happen,
Right.
Something we could just end up talking about Critters. Something bigger and better could happen. You never know for 100th episode.
You never know.
So
there's no way to know.
Right. So, yes, I'm glad that everybody watched 5 Critters movies with us. That's pretty fantastic, especially after watching all the Texas movies.
I also want to shout out the Maxine Frank for mentioning our friend on Instagram, the Maxine Frank, for mentioning the Hallmark movie quality. Because when it started up, I was really like, oh, that's what Maxine was talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Yep, exactly. So good call, Maxine.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for keeping up with us. That does my heart warm that people are watching Critters Attack with us. So that's awesome. So yeah, next week we will talk about the series in its entirety. And so until then, you can find us on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod. HeardABitPod on YouTube, and you can email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. So come back next week for a 5-movie review of Critters, and we'll talk to you then. Good night.
Good night.
This has been a Caretaker Press production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at thismayhurtabitpod and email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review over on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.